Good morning, everyone. Dr. Chris Stanley here, Doctor of Physical Therapy and Health and Wellness Coach. Today we're talking about why eating fat does not make you fat. This is Drivecast Episode 3. This is a topic that I promised I'd bring to you. I think last week I posted a picture of my lunch and it was full of saturated fat. I eat a lot of it every day, and so let's talk a little bit about where this whole idea of why eating fat makes you fat, where did that come from? And from my point of view and my research, it really looks like this kind of came from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and it's still going on today. You know, we started seeing this obesity epidemic really ramping up, and medical and health professionals started wondering, why is everybody getting fat? And so we started looking at, of course, you want to look at food, what are people eating, and there was tons of fat in it. And so long story short, they kind of deductively reasoned that, well, people must be getting fat because they're eating too much fat. And so then we started seeing this big push in grocery stores. Big food companies started marketing their products as low fat and fat free and reduced fat. And you guys still see that all over the place in the grocery stores. Well, little secret about what happens when a food company takes fat out of their product. And most of this stuff is not even really food, it's just products. When you take the fat out of something, it really tastes awful. It ruins the flavor. And so these companies knew to get you to continue buying their product, they had to make it taste good. And to do that, they added sugar, a lot of it. And so all of a sudden our sugar intake ramped up and carbohydrate intake ramped up. And for the sake of this video, carbohydrates and sugar, they're pretty much synonymous for the sake of this Drivecast. Because any carbohydrate you eat, your body, once it digests it, it turns into sugar in your body. Okay, so so here we are, you know, these companies, and there's a great documentary on this, by the way, called Fed Up. I think Allison and I found it on Netflix. Highly recommend you watch this. I think they did a really good job at illustrating what's really happened in the food industry and why there's so much sugar, so much more sugar in the products that we eat now. And you'd be surprised at how many different names a company or a brand will call sugar to hide it, to kind of mask it, so that you don't think you're eating sugar. Like, oh, this doesn't have any sugar in it, when actually it's got like 6 different kinds of sugar in it. It's pretty sneaky. Anyway, check it out. It's called Fed Up. Okay, so now we have a diet, what we call the standard American diet, and the acronym for that is SAD, which is, it is quite sad what our American diet has come to these days. But we have an American diet that is loaded with sugar and loaded with carbohydrates. Okay, so what has that done? Well, let's talk about metabolic fuel sources for a second. Okay, so your body has really, from what I've read and researched, your body has 2 options for sources of fuel, or how it uses calories and fuel on a day-to-day basis to keep you functioning. And this doesn't have to do with exercise or not. I'm just talking about just the average person day-to-day functioning. A body can either choose to be a sugar burner, which means the body uses carbohydrates as its primary fuel source, or it can be a fat burner, which is optimally what we would all like to be, right? What if your body burned your fat all day long, right? We'd all look great. We'd all be fit and trim. Interesting point, the human body is actually genetically coded to be a fat burner, but we have forced it to become a sugar burner because we feed it that all day long. Carbohydrates, carbohydrates, carbohydrates. And this isn't just like blatant obvious sugar like cakes and pies and ice cream. I'm talking about, like, you know, the stuff that we think we're eating that's healthy, like yogurt. Guess what? It's loaded with sugar. Diet Coke. Here's an interesting point. These 0-calorie Diet Cokes and all this stuff, those artificial sweeteners actually trigger the same response in your body. So you might as well, I'm just gonna say it, I'm gonna throw this out there, you might as well be drinking a regular Coke. It's gonna have the same effect on your body. Do you notice that people who drink Diet Cokes are very rarely thin and they're not fit? Your body does the same thing with a Diet Coke that it does with a regular Coke. Maybe to varying degrees, but I mean, really, you're not accomplishing anything special by drinking a Diet Coke. So anyway, that's a separate topic. Okay, so, but there's all these other forms of carbohydrates that people kind of discount. Pasta, breads, like I said, I mean, there's so many other products that have all this hidden sugar in it. Yogurt is not a healthy, it's not a healthy weight loss type of food. There's a lot of fruit. People overeat fruit. Bananas are, oh my God, I can't tell you how many bananas I've eaten in my life. And that was my go-to fruit. And it's loaded with sugar, and it's loaded with sugar that gives you a quick blood sugar boost. And we're gonna go into kind of what that process, what happens there. But okay, so you've got sugar burners, fat burners. The majority of the population, 95% or more, are all sugar burners, okay? All right, so we have trained, over time, we've trained our bodies to rely on carbohydrates and sugar as our primary fuel source. And here's what that does. It's a very quick and easy, accessible source of energy. So your body likes that. It likes to have something that's easy and fast. Okay, so let's go through, I'm gonna take you through my old diet like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and kind of illustrate this. So I would get up in the morning, and as soon as my feet hit the floor, maybe even seconds before my feet hit the floor, I was starving to death. So I would eat a couple eggs, some toast, some cereal, maybe some yogurt, a banana. Turns out I was eating a lot of carbohydrates, right? Head off to work, and by 9:30, 10 o'clock, I was starving to death. Hangry, right? You guys know what that means. That's hunger that makes me angry, right? So I was just starving to death. So I would eat a snack, usually like a granola bar, maybe another banana, maybe a thing of yogurt, whatever. Lunchtime rolls around. I mean, I'm barely making it to lunch, and I've just got to find something to eat. And so then I would have a sandwich. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to remember what I used to eat. A Cliff Bar. Just suffice it to say that my lunch was very high carbohydrate. And then, so I'd eat lunch around noon, and then by like 1 o'clock, 1:30, you know, I'm starting to kind of do this, and I'm just, I mean, I've literally been, I told you guys I used to do outpatient orthopedic physical therapy. There have been times when I had a carb heavy, maybe I took leftovers of some pasta or something, I had a carb heavy lunch, and I would literally be sitting in front of a patient doing an evaluation, asking them, well, you know, how did your neck pain start and one of this? And I'm just like literally almost falling asleep, eyes physically closing in front of somebody. I was like, oh my God, what? I can't even believe that I'm actually falling asleep in front of a patient. This is awful. Fortunately, that only happened a few times, but those are the extreme examples, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about. You go eat your lunch, you get back to work, you get back to your desk, whatever, and you're on your computer, and you're just like, oh my God. And what do most of us go for, right? Coffee, which most of us put, you know, some cream and sugar in, and we just keep this cycle going. And so what happens is, when your body knows that you're going to give it carbohydrates for energy, then that's all it looks for. And so when you feed it fat, it doesn't know what to do with that. So it's like, I don't know what to do with this. And so it just goes and like sticks it places and stores it. And that's all your body can really do with fat when it's looking for carbohydrates. There's also this kind of roller coaster of insulin response. And this kind of gets almost into another drivecast, into another topic, but this is one of the big reasons why people can develop diabetes. Diabetes is your body's inability to regulate its own blood sugar levels. And blood sugar, which to a certain level, we need to have sugar in our blood for energy, right? So it's not all bad. But when your blood sugar levels get too high, it is actually toxic to your body. It's toxic to your brain, it's toxic to your organs. And so your body is equipped with a system to regulate that, to pull the blood sugar levels down in your body. It's called insulin. You guys have heard about this, right? So there's a reason why obesity tends to turn into diabetes, is because people who are obese, they got that way from eating carbohydrates primarily, and fat. But the issue comes when your body is constantly fed all these carbohydrates, and again, your body turns it into sugar, so it causes your body to release insulin. to try to deal with that. And when that happens over and over, day in and day out, months, years, two things happen. One, your body gets tired of making insulin, and so it doesn't do as good a job of releasing insulin. The other thing that happens is that your body becomes, your body's sensitivity to insulin decreases. So for it to achieve the same decrease in your blood sugar, it has to release more and more insulin. And so over time, I mean, we're just burning out that system, and eventually it quits. And then a lot of these people become reliant on insulin injections to regulate their blood sugar. Those people also have to be very careful what they eat. And if you ask a diabetic, they know exactly what they're supposed to eat and not eat. And it doesn't have anything to do with fat and protein for the most part. It's all about their carbohydrates. Okay, so we are genetically coded as human beings to thrive metabolically, energy-wise, on saturated fat. And saturated fat has gotten an awful reputation. It's completely a lie. It's a myth. Fat does not make us fat. Carbohydrates make us fat. When our body relies on carbohydrates for energy, it stores the fat. And what we need it to do is burn the fat. And for us to do that, we actually have to cause it to transition. We have to ask it to transition to burning fat. And you can actually do that. There's a great challenge that I took. It was a 21-day primal challenge that the whole preface of that was to train your body to burn saturated fat instead of carbohydrates. And as you can imagine, one of the big things is that you have to decrease your carbohydrates significantly. This is the same reason why the Atkins diet tends to work, except the Atkins diet is a little bit, it's missing a lot of other stuff. But it works because it's a low carbohydrate diet. And so when you're making this transition, you're really looking to transition more to protein and fat. Now I'm gonna warn you guys, for people who are like, oh cool, I want to be a fat burner, and you go into your cupboard and you clean out all your carbs and you just load it with fat. You can't do that, or you're going to gain a ton of weight, because if your body's expecting carbohydrates, you're going to be starving to death, because if it doesn't get the carbs, it's going to be asking for them. It's going to be knocking like, hey, give me some carbs. And then any fat that you eat, it's going to store it. You have to kind of do this slowly, and you'll actually go through, when you're making this transition, there's a little, anywhere from 3 to 7 days into that 21-day time period, you're going to go through something called the Carb Flu. And this is a real deal, and it affects people differently. It hit me, I'd say, you know, on a 0 to 10 scale, from what I understand, I was probably about a 5. Some people hardly feel it at all. Other people are like, oh my God, I have the flu. But it's literally your body making that transition. You kind of have some flu-like symptoms. You have some fatigue. You kind of just feel a little bit, you know, tired and achy. It lasts for about 2 to 3 days, and then literally, man, just boom, out of the blue, you feel awesome. You've got tons of energy, and I can attest to this. I went through this. It works. So I am officially a fat burner, and now my job is to just maintain it, because you can fall off the wagon and go back, you know, back the other direction at any point. But I encourage you guys, if you want more information on this whole fat burning thing, there's a great resource. The resource that I used is Mark Sisson's book. It's called The Primal Blueprint by Mark Sisson. You can get it on Amazon or anywhere. And that talks a lot about, you know, living a primal lifestyle in general. And if you guys are interested in that, that's cool. But it's worth it, even just for the information on kind of transitioning your metabolic fuel source, or your body's fuel source, to fat burning. So anyway, if you guys have any more questions about that, as always, please message me. You know, I hope you guys got a takeaway from this, and please share it with anybody that you think might be interested in this concept of why saturated fat doesn't make you fat. And because of my transition now, I can eat tons of saturated fat. And I don't know if you guys have seen my last picture that I posted. Like I said, I just turned 40. I'm pretty trim. I could be better. I'm still having a good time in California, and I'm probably eating more carbs right now than I should be. But I'm able to eat, you know, 3 times more carbs intermittently than most people and not gain weight, and that's a pretty cool thing. So anyway, let me know if you have any questions. Message me. Share this with anybody that you think might benefit. Hope you guys have a great Thursday and a great weekend, and I'll see you on the other side. Talk to you later. Bye.